Hey guys, it's Saturday here on Pagan Perspective. I'm your host Brendan, and this week we are talking about inspired and prophetic writing. So our question this week comes from Cody. I will put details in the bottom section below. But pretty much they're talking about a piece of work, I believe, from Crowley, and also addressing certain pieces by some of the philosophers as Homer and a few Christian-related pieces about inspired and prophetic writing, and whether we have experience reading those pieces or whether we could just ramble for 10 minutes about muses and inspiration. So for me, like, taking this question to my practice and my understanding of this, so prophetic writing would be writing that in either a trance state or a lucid state, becoming aware and tapping into future threads and the possibilities and outcomes that could come. I can often see this done with tarot, with veiled visioning work. It may be a light trance or a light possession with a god or a deity or a relationship with a particular spirit. And that person speaks and channels future sight. So they will talk about events to come, signposts, markers, a general future sort of thing. And this can often be seen as like the works in the Oracle of Delphi and soothsayers and fortune tellers and gypsy, like all that kind of like casting the stones and shells to read, and then the inspiration that comes with that. And I know for me personally with that kind of prophetic stuff, it would be when reading tarot, it's that opening the doorway and the story that comes out and reading into a future event for the person that I'm reading for. And I think that's kind of where that comes, and you might have someone that is a scribe that will write for you. It's being done in ritual space where it may be that a particular deity has been drawn down and there's a scribe writing what is happening coming from them. So particular words that may be a message for the community. But then that also then leads into the next part, which would be inspired writing, which for me would be, it's more like grounded and more like related and connected to either people, gods, spirits, animals, places, all that sort of thing. And it's something that sparks a piece of writing. So whether it be a story, a journey, a adventure, a poem, a song, that kind of thing for me is like inspired writing. So it is really much that, like Cody said, muses, the inspiration of the muses that comes through, and it's really about just kind of, it might be a story that is expressing a lesson through it. So it might be a story with a moral, it might be a story that makes people think and question. It might just be a lovely story to make people happy or to challenge people and take them from a comfort zone. We often will use that with like things that like relatable to stories about life and death and everything related to everyday mundane life sort of process, but having like perhaps some magical context to it. For me, inspired writing would be anything like great works of like fantasy writing and sci-fi and like murder mysteries, all that sort of thing that can be very may relate to facts and reality, but then also just be very out there and not within the norm. And then another one that I would add in that may be like inspired with Gnosis, it may be like partially prophetic, would be like, well, inspired by Gnosis. Gnosis is the word I want to use, but inspired by Gnosis or like prophetic Gnosis, it's that really tapping into Gnosis, which is that, for me, it's like a fountainhead of knowledge and wisdom and inspiration and prophecy. And in the Wildwood tradition I belong to, we often will be doing rituals and all of a sudden someone just taps into that thread of Gnosis, and it's something that was weaving between all of us, and someone just ends up being the speaker of that insight or inspiration or prophecy that may then become law within the tradition. And it's being open aware to that, so being able to just have your channels and communication open. So a technique that I would say that's great for like brainstorming and really just kind of like tapping into deeper meaning within simple concepts would be from the reclaiming tradition, which comes from, this technique comes from Aikido, I believe. It's called dropped and open, and it's about pretty much drawing in all your awareness and drawing it, like the consciousness and everything, and then dropping it into for what I've done with this work before, dropping in the cauldron of the belly, and from that place filling that cauldron with all the words and concepts that you want to work within, and from there just having words spill forth. And it's often done like in a group setting, so whether I know within reclaiming it's used for like writing intentions or rituals, or picking stories for a camp, or just growth and development, and just really kind of like taking what can be such a mundane process into this real magical intensive. And it's from that place of dropped and open awareness that we can tap into the greater awareness around us. So just beyond our single cells and ourselves and all that's within us, and connecting into the wider tapestry of the universe, and really just feeding into the stories there, and being able to express and expel those words, and having someone writing them down and seeing where they are all meeting up with other people, and then going back afterwards and taking our awareness back up and out into our body, where it like back to where it normally is homed and housed, and then going through and just seeing what inspires us from that kind of work that we did there, and just really taking that information to then be able to write intentions, to choose rituals and stories and gods and deities we want to work with, and work we want to do within community, and all of that. So it can even be done like in teaching groups and magical groups and all that sort of stuff. But I think, yeah, I've rambled for a fair amount of time. I don't think I'll make the 10-minute mark, but I think there is like a plethora of inspired and prophetic writings, and you can take a lot of them with a grain of salt. And I think Kara touched on it a bit, like that often these will come filtered through our words and our vision, and what may be entirely relatable to us can be completely challenging to someone else because the words and technology doesn't make sense to them. But if they were to receive the same thread, like they could end up being like parallel things, or they can be completely tangent. It's just really being open and aware, and knowing that every piece of prophecy and inspiration isn't just for one person and may not always look the same. But I think that is it for this week. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, having a lovely dark new moon phase going on as well, and just be lovely and kind to yourselves. But for this week, much love and blessings. Mwah!